Hi guys, my name's Riaz and welcome to Cut Academy. In today's video we're going to be talking about Requiem for a Dream and 5 different things that I learned from this film. This is an extremely dark and depressing film and perhaps the most scary film I've ever personally seen. It's not scary in the traditional sense of a horror film, but it is scary on a psychological level. This is one of the films that has had perhaps the most profound effect on me. I wanted to investigate a bit further as to why this film left me feeling so unsettled and disturbed, and what I could use from this film to deepen my own knowledge of filmmaking and understanding storytelling. So the first technique we're going to be getting into is called hip-hop montage, which is perhaps one of the most defining aspects of this film, and it's a term that Darren Aronofsky coined while he was making the film. He explains hip-hop montage as taking sharp sounds and images and cutting them together in a jarring fashion to create a almost musical piece.
The challenge of the film was to connect the kid story with the Sarah Goldfarb story. And I connect them through what we called hip-hop montages. The idea is to take, sharp sounds with sharp images and put them one after the other and basically form almost a musical piece.
So what is it that makes these hip-hop montages so effective? Firstly, Aronofsky uses extreme close-ups for pretty much most of these montages. The primary reason for using extreme close-up in these montages is that the process of taking up the drug immerses the whole frame, and it shows the viewer the moment of ecstasy, the short-term payoff that these characters are getting from doing this drug by simply immersing the viewer in the process of taking the drug and using that as a segue to connect the different characters. Along with these extreme close-ups, Aronofsky had his team of sound designers and recordists create heightened artificial sounds.
Then my sound designer, Brian Emmerich, spent months upon months getting really cool sounds to help emphasize the images.
These hip-hop montages, while they may be very brief in the actual amount of time they take up of the film, they're repeated so often that it heightens the audience's understanding that these drugs are giving our characters an extreme high, but it is fleeting. It vanishes in seconds or after a brief moment of time of the initial joy that it brings them. And that is why Aronofsky has effectively utilized these hip-hop montages in this film. I had a go at creating my own hip-hop montage just for the sake of seeing how difficult it was to do and if I could achieve a similar kind of effect as Aronofsky. So with some spare oregano I had lying around the house, I decided to put together a hip-hop montage of my own. So the second technique I want to talk about is actually more of an ethos when it comes to developing your writing and becoming a good writer. After I watched the film, I started watching interviews with the original author of the novel Requiem for a Dream, who is Hubert Selby Jr. And he was being interviewed by the actress that plays Sarah Goldfarb, Ellen Burstyn. And she asked him, how did you realize that you had a talent for writing? Now I'm going to play the clip here so you can see what his full response was and you can make your own opinion.
I can't draw a straight line. I have no talent. I'm probably the most untalented person that's ever lived. I don't have any natural abilities. None whatsoever.
How can you be a writer and not have natural ability for writing?
By sitting down and writing every day of your life until you've learned how to write.
What I mean is that if you're a writer, isn't one of the things that defines what you are, that you are gifted in that direction?
Depends how you're defining it. I have no natural talent. I could never write a letter. I could never draw a line. I was not an exceptional mechanic. No natural talent. I mean natural talent. Like some people pick up a pencil, give them a piece of paper, they draw. Or they write poems, or they can write lovely letters and things like that. Nothing. But I had this obsession to do something with my life. I didn't want to waste it. And so I came home every night and wrote.
Now, what Selby Jr. speaks about here is that he feels he was born with no natural God-given talent whatsoever. The only thing that he kind of described as a universal experience for him in life was pain. Fed up of not feeling motivated or purposeful in life, he decided to start writing reams and reams and reams of paper every single day. And he speaks about this. He says most days what he wrote was complete crap and he would discard it, bin it, and start again. But what he makes clear is that every day without fail he decided to do some form of writing, and the reason he did this was because he felt he had potential that was going to waste and he didn't want to live his life without feeling some kind of purpose. Now this is really interesting because it kind of relates a lot to the subject material of Requiem for a Dream, in which the characters' pursuit of an idealized goal or dream ultimately leads to their own downfall. Hubert Selby Jr. here is actually kind of taking that idea but saying, look, it doesn't matter what you want to accomplish or how talented you believe you are. By practicing consistently on a regular basis, that starts to become a part of who you are and what it is that you do on a daily basis. And therefore, before you realize it, you're being called an author or a writer because that's what your time is now spent doing. Okay, the next technique that I want to talk about used in Requiem for a Dream that I learnt from was split screen. In most of the scenes where split screening occurs, you'll notice that it's used to exaggerate the sense of separation between characters or characters and their own personal vices or addictions. Now, the most poignant use of split screen is in the intimate love scene between Harry and Marion. The reason the split screen is effective here is not because it gives us more information than just a single shot. It's because it creates a level of separation between the two characters and heightens the sense that we're experiencing the film subjectively based on what the characters are experiencing. For example, when Harry is touching Marion, we see extreme close-ups of different details on her body, his fingers, her lips. What that does is it shows us that no matter how much Harry wants to connect with Marion, he's really connecting with an image of her or a perceived notion of her more so than he's actually experiencing the act of intimacy or love. The same goes for Marion as well, and I think the choice to use the split screen here is obviously to exaggerate the effect that heroin is having on the two's relationship by making them feel an artificial sense of closeness but creating a barrier that stops them from ever really feeling what they are truly experiencing. Instead, it glazes over their experience with a heightened sense of superficiality and distance, where they become more infatuated with the act of what they're doing as opposed to actually losing themselves in it. The use of split screen in this film reminds us that every technique needs to be motivated and every technique can help to achieve the aesthetic or thematic choices of your project. So the next thing that I learned from Requiem for a Dream is about unconventional cinematography. Now, this film employs a litany of different techniques and effects, and in fact, it's constantly introducing new effects and techniques into the lexicon of the film as the film progresses and as our characters transform as well. So one aspect of the film I want to talk about is with regards to Sarah Goldfarb, who is shot from angles that get wider and wider and wider, which allow her to engulf more of the screen but add a level of distortion to her appearance. Now, the reason for these choices is because as Sarah is getting addicted to these speed diet pills, her perception of reality gets weirder and weirder and stranger to the point that she has lost a handle on what is really happening around her. Aronofsky uses these wider angles to show that transformation and to actually create a sense of unease and fear in the audience, because stranger things begin to happen as these angles get wider and wider. The choices in this film also serve to put the viewer into the subjective view of the different characters. For example, there's many different occasions in the film where the camera is almost completely fixed onto the subject. An example being after Marion liaises with her therapist to get money for Harry, the camera is fixed on her completely and it mimics every tremble, every shake, every rush that she suddenly has. The camera reflects all of that, and therefore the viewer almost experiences it with the character and feels the heightened sense of turmoil that they're experiencing in these key moments. So what we can learn from this is that cinematography is a tool and a language that can be used to our own advantage. When we want to achieve a certain effect, or we want to build on the themes and concepts in our script, we can think carefully about the different techniques we employ to do so and plan out how we use them, as they do have a very real impact on the audience, but they also can further express the ideas and thoughts of the character or subject visually on the screen as well. So that's another thing to bear in mind, and that's a lesson that I learned from watching this film. The last thing that I learned from Requiem for a Dream is how you can use perspective to create horror. As I've mentioned in the point before, the camera never takes an objective viewpoint, it always takes a subjective one, meaning that the character that we're sharing the screen with, the film is told from their perspective at that time. So for example, if we're in Sarah's flat, the cinematography speaks from Sarah's perspective of what is going on, as opposed to the objective reality of what's going on. When she is going through an intense episode of paranoia and anxiety due to the drugs that she's been taking, the fridge begins to move and shake and approach her, and this causes deep fear within her. If I took speed and you were watching me, there would be no fridge moving in the room. But that doesn't mean that I don't perceive a fridge moving in the room. Therefore, what Aronofsky's using here is the subjective perspective of the camera to his advantage to allow him to create these horrific sequences and these horrific moments that are not really occurring, but because of the way the film is shot, it feels as if this is the only thing occurring right now. I learned that you can use the fact that we all have our own perspective and all individual processing of the world around us to your advantage to create extremely innovative sequences that reflect our character's state of mind. And this film does that amazingly well, and all of the horrific or scary moments in the film are almost because of us seeing it how the character sees it. When you see it from their perspective, you can understand how they go further into the rabbit hole as they're trying to escape the overwhelming fear that is inside them, and we get to see that through their own eyes. So this video has just been a breakdown of some of the most interesting things I learned from watching Requiem for a Dream, and distilling that knowledge down into a few points that hopefully you guys can learn something from as well. If you've seen this film, drop me a comment below, let me know what you thought of it. I mean, this is a film I could talk about for days and days, and it's definitely in my top 10. Drop me a comment on what film you'd like to see me break down next. Maybe I'll put a poll out with some of my favorite options. If you managed to learn anything from this video, or you just enjoyed watching it, drop a like, subscribe, and comment below, and I'll speak to you again soon. Take care, this is Rios from Cut Academy, signing off.